So, welcome back to our second podcast. It's wonderful to have you here. For new listeners, my name is Pamela, and this is my sister,
Karen.
See how much effort it took her to remember that then? It was like there was a glitch in the matrix. She was like, who am I? In case you got lost in Spotify, you are listening to Breaking Free Together. It's a podcast talking about mine and Karen's experiences as children being raised by a narcissist. More importantly, it's a podcast to try and help other people who have also had that experience, either being raised by a narcissist or being in a relationship with a narcissist or having to work with a narcissist. God love you all. Thank you for joining us. So today we're diving into the narcissist playbook, the tactics they use, and how these behaviors can impact their loved ones, especially children.
The key thing is that it's with the narcissist playbook is the behaviors that they exhibit. That it is important to understand them because it helps us then to recognize where our power's been taken away through the different tactics that they used. And then that in turn helps us to break free, because we can be in a bit of a spiral, or even if we're not kind of, well, I mean, for us, we don't live with our dad anymore, but we still have, obviously a relationship with him. We still have a connection with him. And so you can quite quickly, once you're in his presence, end up going back to feeling all the things you felt as a child if you don't understand what he's doing and realize that this is all coming from him and none of it involves the fact that you're a bad person or that you're getting things wrong, or so knowledge is power, as they say. So that's why. And also, if you're not sure, some people aren't sure, was it really that bad, or is it really, and was it really not, was it not just maybe I'm being oversensitive, etc. And so listening sometimes to different other people's experiences or an explanation of these tactics can help us realize that actually, yes, that is the situation that we've been in as well. Before, haven't we, as children, we didn't have the language to understand what the pattern of behavior that we were in. And so, or not that we were in, that was happening to us. And we just, getting older, knew something was wrong, but still maybe wasn't sure what. And then as we've learned about narcissism and these different tactics, then it's like your eyes become open and you're like, oh, that's what it is. And then you can adjust you can't control someone who's a narcissist, but you can adjust how you think and how you react or don't react, and whether in fact you want to have anything more to do with them as well.
That once you realize that what has happened to you has happened to you from somebody who has the problem, somebody else is the problem.
Yeah.
You have been thinking this entire time that you're not good enough and you're not perfect enough and you're not enough and you need to do better. There's the element of confusion. There's this element of needing to people please all of the time. You suddenly discover that the person who's been doing this to you this whole time is the problem.
The key thing is to remember, learning and understanding that these are tactics is learning that this whole situation and the narcissistic, narcissist behavior isn't about you. It's about them, and it's about where it comes from in them. It's not about anything that you've done. It's not a reaction to anything that you've done. It's about how they feel about themselves inside. And that's where it comes from, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, there is that misconception that a narcissist love themselves. Oh, narcissists love themselves. That's why they're there. But it's you hit the nail entirely on the head. It is from past trauma. Their behavior is based on actual self-loathing. That's why they need control, because they hate themselves and who they are so much. Narcissist fills the whole of their desperation by controlling other people. If I have a need to feel loved, and instead of saying, I am enough, I can love myself,
Yeah.
I reach for a bottle of vodka and go, well, this will make me feel loved, which we all know really is, this is going to make me forget that I'm unlovable. Their fix is control over other people.
Mm.
Their
Yeah.
fix, depending on who the narcissist is demeaning other people or making other people appear lesser than they are.
Yeah.
So you hit the nail on the head. It totally is about them.
It's key to understand that there's nothing you can do to make them act any different. So for us as children, if we behave more, if we're quieter, if we do exactly as we're told, if we're making more cups of teas, if we do the dishes right, if we hoover, if we're busy when he comes in, if we do all our homework, or it wouldn't matter if we were absolutely 100% the best children ever to have walked this earth. And it's the same if you're in a relationship with a narcissist and you think, if I just make sure that I do this or if I do that, or because what they'll tend to do is they'll tend to switch it up anyway. So no matter which way you go, you won't know where you are.
Someone who is that full-on narcissist, they know exactly what they're doing. They have no empathy. They'll never apologize and say that they're in the wrong. And if they do, it's only another tactic to manipulate you.
Yeah.
The hoovering tactic where they say, oh, I'm so sorry, I shouldn't have said that, blah, blah, sucking you back into their life.
Suck you back in, yeah.
It's not a genuine apology, and it's certainly not genuine remorse. You can't have remorse if you can't experience empathy, and these people can't experience empathy. They just, don't have a clue. What's a key tactic of a narc?
Probably the one that everybody knows is because they've heard it, especially in recent years, spoke about a lot, is gaslighting.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Gaslighting people where they manipulate their victim to basically doubt their own reality. No, what are you talking about? That didn't happen. No, you never told me that. No, that never happened. What you're going mad, you are, kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Once they've got that, the whole point of that is we go back to what you said about breaking the spirit. Their idea is that you carry on and on and on with the gaslighting. It breaks their spirit. You then have somebody who doesn't know whether they're up, down, backward, and forward. And a confused person is so much easier to control than a person who knows what the hell is going on.
Sometimes it can be a slippery slope, can't it? Where maybe it just happens a little bit, and then before you know it, you almost feel, like you said, you're quite confused, you can't think straight. You do start to believe somebody that says that constantly to you, or maybe I am oversensitive, or maybe I'm not remembering things correct.
It was that constant feeling of unworthiness.
Yeah.
You were never worthy. You were never good enough. You were never worthy. And I know that kind of slips into other tactics of a narcissist. But when I think of the relentlessness of dad and the fact that we were not good enough, the point is we're born good enough. Your job as a parent is to raise your child, guide your child, allow your child to flourish, not continuously say, what's the matter with you? Are you stupid? Is something wrong with you? Are you stupid? Is there something wrong with you? Because I swear to God, if I had £1 for every time I had heard that, I would never need to work a day in my life. So pervasive was that word that it's banned in my house. Nobody is, I mean, I can call you a numpty or an idiot or an arsehole or whatever, but nobody in this house calls each other stupid. And I raised my children with that word never being spoken as an attack. Going back to dad's philosophy, because it was his philosophy. Break a child's spirit, mold them into what you want them to become. That to me is like gaslighting at its ultimate, because that's what the point of gaslighting is to break someone's spirit and make them controllable.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what he did to us. Day in, day out, day in, day out for me, 18 years.
There was one particular time, but this happened on a number of occasions, that we were sent to the supermarket for laundry liquid this time. And it was,
Okay.
here is the money, and this is the laundry liquid to get. And it was the name, the proper name of the laundry liquid, not just like I'd say to my kids, just get anything that's like bio, that's the bio one.
Yeah.
Whereas we were given a specific name. And so you go and they haven't got it. And you're stood there in panic because if you bring something else back, then it's, well, what did you bring that back for? Well, I could have gone to another shop and got what we actually needed with the money, but now you spent the money and I can't, and we've got the wrong one. But if you came back with none, it would be, well, we need washing powder. You should have just brought anything back. I didn't know at that time that was my knowledge. It was just the fear and the paralysis and the sheer panic of what do I do while stood in front of a shelf of washing powder for what felt like a lifetime trying to decide. But now looking back, I know that it was because I knew that no matter what I did, what decision I made, it was going to be wrong
Yeah.
because that's what he did.
Yeah.
Whatever decision you ever made on your own was wrong.
Yeah.
It was always wrong. You couldn't know what, it didn't matter. It didn't matter what I did, it was wrong. So for me, and I know that's not like the traditional term of gaslighting, but for me, that's the gaslighting that you make the decision on your own, you're wrong. You don't make the decision, you're wrong. You should have just made a decision. What the hell were you playing at? And for me, it was gaslighting because I knew that if I'd have made the opposite decision, he'd have told me off for that. But he was acting like he wouldn't have told me off for that. Do you know what I mean?
Which
So maybe,
messes up with your reality.
and the thing is, because of that, I mean, that was just an example, but that was a regular thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because of that, I now, even now, nearly 50, struggle so much to make decisions. I'm such an indecisive person, and because I'm terrified of getting it wrong.
Yeah.
So what if I get it wrong? So what? At the end, I'll get it wrong, and the consequence will be this, and that's it. And I'll know next time to make a different decision. Or
Yeah.
there maybe won't be a different decision to me, or I'll make a decision, it'll all go right, and I'll be like, oh, great. But it's like my whole life hangs in the balance of making this decision. And even down to silly things, like my partner will say to me, where do you want to go to go out for a meal? Where do you want to go? And I'm terrified of making the decision because I'm like, what if I choose this place and the food isn't nice? Like that's my responsibility. Or what if I choose this place and it's too expensive? Or what if it's not the right choice? Well, who cares? You've gone out for a nice meal or you've gone out for a meal. Chalk it up to experience and say, well, we won't go there again. Or, but for me, it's like a rabbit in headlights moment even now, so it definitely does have an effect on your, well, reality or even your, what goes on in your own head.
Okay, so our next tactic that we're going to touch on is triangulation, which isn't one of those that are high up on the list. The definition of triangulation obviously is creating conflict between people to maintain control or manipulate situations, which doesn't sound much. Basically, it means pitting people against each other. The narcissist, again, is the puppet master up there, pulling all the strings, cause an absolute riot amongst the people he is bringing. And triangulation, while it talks about three people, it could well be more or less. But he's pitting you against other people. This can happen in a sibling situation. It can happen in your friendship situation. So you could be in a relationship with somebody who is already trying to isolate you from your friends, because that's another tactic narcissists use, is to isolate you from the people you've known and been friends with all these years so that they can have more control over you. And so your friends can't warn you about his behavior. He can't be found out. And it'll be a case of, oh, well, Sarah didn't invite you to go out on Friday night. Are you, yeah, oh, I don't think Sarah's a very good friend. Your immediate reaction is, oh, that's a bit weird. Why was she not? And then your brain starts going because already he's already started infiltrating your self-worth. So then there comes, well, why would she not invite me out? Why is she not? What have I done wrong? What have I done wrong? And instead of picking up the phone and ringing Sarah and saying, why did you not invite me out? To which you might find that Sarah didn't go out on Friday night at all.
Yeah.
It's a complete and utter lie
Application. Yeah.
to get you to start distancing yourself from your friends. So if you would not pick up the phone to ask Sarah why she didn't ask you out on Friday night, he's already driven a wedge between you and Sarah.
Mm.
And then the next time you see Sarah, maybe you'll just be a little bit more pulled back or a little bit more distant or a little bit snappy. And then Sarah will be going, what the hell is your problem? And then it escalates. And he's sitting there
Yeah.
going, ha, 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 because he's got
Yeah.
what he wants.
Yeah.
I think siblings and the sibling situation, it's different. I mean, for us, we were pitted against each other.
Yeah. He's still tries to do it now, to be honest with you. But
I
he
think
forgets that we
more
talk to each
now.
other.
Yeah,
Mm.
I think more now than when we were
Forgets that
younger.
we talk to each other. Like our older brother is the golden child.
Yeah.
Because usually you will have this, where you have the golden child, and then you have the scapegoat, which is you. And then
I wear that title with pride.
and then you can have the invisible child. I don't know, sometimes I think it moves around. Sometimes
I do think I think it moves
I'm not
around. I don't think
the
it's a one robe fits all kind of situation.
no. And I don't think I'm the golden child. I might be the gilded child. So I'm golden until I do something that he's not happy with.
Yeah,
Whereas our brother doesn't matter what he does, and he has done some stuff. He
yeah,
is still a golden child, and dad will defend him, even though he's done stuff that would have any other parent
yeah,
disowning their children, he will
yeah.
still defend him. Whereas I think with me, I'm golden until I piss him off, and then I'm not anymore. So the gilded maybe, or invisible, you're the scapegoat. I mean, we know this. He said to us certain situations that have happened recently when they made the decision. He made the decision not to see you, speak to you for quite a while, but was telling me that you're the one that made that decision, wasn't he? He was saying that you and your partner were the ones that had said that you weren't welcome at their house, etc., etc., etc. And it was only because obviously I know that is not true.
So Kaza came over to visit maybe 4 years ago, and I think we mentioned in the last podcast that mum and dad were Jehovah's Witnesses, or Jehovah's Witnesses. We were both raised as Jehovah's Witnesses and both have decided to go our own way, which, is what free will is all about. But I was disfellowshipped, think excommunicated from the congregation. And the way Jehovah's Witnesses look at it, that is that the person who's been disfellowshipped should have absolutely nothing to do with their family, and they're cut off, like amputated from their family's life, which is fine. I was totally fine with that. Only mum and dad's version of me being cut off was a bit hypocritical in the fact that they decided that, well, we can cut her off until we need her, and then when we need her, we'll bring her. So
Yeah.
if they needed someone to clean the house, or if they needed someone to take mum to hospital when dad was sick, if it was an emergency, they needed me, they would ring and I would arrive. Our responsibility as children is to be there for our parents. And to be honest with you, I didn't make this decision. They have made this decision. So when you came over to visit and you were staying at our house, you went up to visit mum and dad. You know all of this stuff because we've been
Yeah.
talking years about it. You
Yeah.
know that I've been cut off. You know that I'm the pariah and the leper and until I'm needed. But when then you went to their house and dad said to you, and I'll let you tell it because you were there.
Dad said you decided that that they weren't welcome at your house, and you wanted nothing to do with them, and you didn't come up and see them, and in fact you had your partner go outside, apparently, which we know is rubbish because your partner would never do that. Go outside and tell them that they weren't welcome. And because I'm not at that stage where I can, maybe somebody else, well, maybe Pamela, you are at that stage where you would say to him, actually, that is not true. Whereas I wasn't at that stage then. So I just sat there thinking that's not true, but didn't actually say it. That was his way of getting me to feel badly about you. And the whole thing with our brother is the same. The whole thing with him being a golden child is that it's not because he talks to us about how he's wonderful, how our brother is wonderful, and he'll deliberately go out of his way to tell us these things about our brother. Oh, he never does this, and he always does this, and he's so wonderful, and he's doing it on purpose to make us feel rubbish,
Well, I
and
also think it's not just to make us feel rubbish. I think he loves the reaction. He's
Yeah.
waiting for the reaction. And I've noticed this last wee while. And what I do is don't react.
Yeah.
I just go, oh, okay. Because he wants this shocking reaction.
Yeah.
So we took a wee break and did a whole room change on Karen's side, at least. And we're back. I think I needed the break more for my voice, and I had a really coughing fit. But anyway, we were talking about triangulation. We covered a little bit of gaslighting. We were talking about our experiences. Now we want to talk a little bit, Kazi, about how those things impacted us as children. As this parent, their conditioning puts children questioning, trusting themselves. We nearly questioned every action we made.
Even down to the smaller things, if a wrong decision is made, instead of it just being, oh well, and I'll learn from that, to me, it's the end of the world, because at home with dad, it was the end of the world. You were taught not to trust your own inner voice. You were taught not to trust your own instincts. We never were allowed to develop those things that get you through life. We've all got a gut instinct, haven't we? We've all got a critical thinking voice that helps us make these decisions, that maybe makes us think, actually, I don't quite feel that that's right. And we were taught not to even engage with them, not to ever trust them. We were to be robots and to do exactly as we were told. And so that has had a huge effect on my decision making,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. I
So,
found also, I found the self-doubt also couples with the perfectionism.
yeah,
We were expected to be perfect, whether that
yeah,
be outside of the house or inside of the house. I recall the times on a Saturday morning when Dad would say, right, I need you to go upstairs and clean the pigsty of your room, which was never a pigsty, but the way he made it out was always,
yeah,
and you'd go up, and there was always a difference. If mum told you to go and do your room, there wasn't that element of fear, and you knew that you had a little bit of wiggle room. If dad told you to do the room, you knew that everything needed to be perfect. And even when you thought everything was perfect, you know,
yeah,
he'd storm into the room and you just had that stern face on him. You
yeah,
didn't know. It was just like that stern face of, I'm going to find something wrong. In fact, he would say that, if I remember correctly, he'd
yeah,
say, if I find anything wrong with this room, you're going to have to start all over again. In fact, I might
yeah,
tear everything and throw everything in the middle of the floor and make you, going, I'm 7 years of age. And
yeah,
you're stood there with your hands clenched. I remember my heart, and you're just watching him go around the room, and you're thinking, have I got it? Because he added that self-doubt again, because you thought
yeah,
that you had it fixed. And
yeah.
then that added self-doubt was, have I got
What if
everything
I haven't
fixed?
covered
Have
everything?
I, what?
Yeah,
And then if he found one thing out of place, he'd lift it and he'd toss it in the middle of the room. Does this belong here? Does it? And this belongs here? Does it? And I suppose you think this belongs here? Does it? And you'd find your things that you thought would be put in the right place or a neat place chucked into,
yeah,
so ridiculously dramatic.
yeah,
That then led you to a level of fear that you needed to be perfect all of the time. There was no wiggle room, there was no buffer.
no,
And as a child, that kind of restriction for me, I mean, it made me a perfect. I would say, I'm still a bit of a perfectionist.
yeah.
Um,
I
and
think
even
you're
if
a
I'm not,
lot of a perfectionist. I think you
yeah,
hold yourself to very, very high standards. Yeah,
well, yeah, I would agree. I would
yeah,
agree. And then there's the guilt that if
yeah,
it isn't as perfect as you possibly make it, you feel guilty. And
yeah.
that's a learned behavior because he made you feel guilty.
That you're good enough or you'll try your best wasn't good enough. It's our job as parents to guide them to be reasonable human beings so that when they grow up and live on their own, they learn to do the dishes, keep the room tidy, whatever. But it wasn't that. It was
No.
so much more extreme than that. It wasn't just, oh, do it properly. Do you know what I mean? Never mind all this, do it properly. Come on now. Or,
Yeah.
it was absolutely regimented, Sergeant Major. In fact, you would think that he had been in the
Wouldn't
army,
you?
wouldn't you? And
I
he
was
had
thinking,
never.
I would totally agree. I mean, when your bedroom needs to be more organized than a military camp base, there has
Yeah.
to be something wrong there.
That's
I
okay.
think because his dad
Was
had been
like
in
that.
the army and was so very, very strict rather than breaking the chain like we have with our children.
Yeah.
Dad implemented all the things that his father implemented because he wanted his children to be perfect. Partly for dad, but I think also it was partly to prove to his father that he was good enough as a good enough father,
Yeah.
which again goes back to it's not your fault
Mm.
as the person who's suffering the narcissistic abuse. It's the person who is the narcissist that has the
Yeah.
issues and they're self-loathing. But the irony obviously is that they don't work on themselves to change
Yeah.
the self-loathing. They try and change everybody else around them to satisfy
Yeah.
that.
They're kind of. Well, it was funny because I had a conversation with him the other day, and do
Okay.
you remember when well, we spoke before about being in the religion that we were in, that they were having like a big convention in the I think it was the Philharmonic Hall in Liverpool, and there was a speaker up on the stage, a special speaker that everyone had gone to see, and they wanted some people sat behind the speaker as well, and they were asking the different congregations to what if there was any families or that could sit there. And our family was chosen. And the person that told Dad that his family had been chosen to sit behind the speaker said it was because his children were so well behaved. I mean, we were well behaved because we were absolutely terrified of what would happen to us if we didn't sit in church and be absolutely immaculately behaved.
Yeah.
So then this person came to Dad and said, well, your family's been chosen to sit at the back because your children are so well behaved. We know they won't mess around because they're going to be up on stage. And Dad said to me, he said, isn't that funny? He said, there are rubbish little family that everyone looked down on and everyone thought was like, scruffy and and this is all stuff he feels that people are thinking about himself or he feels about himself. Isn't it funny that we're the only family because our children were the best ones that were behaved? And just you saying what you said before, he wanted us to be perfect because he wanted it to be a reflection on him. So he
Always.
wasn't interested in us being our own individuals. He
No.
wasn't interested in being proud of us because of who we were or our own personalities. To him, we were the thing that was going to show how great he was. Do you know what I
Always.
mean? We were an extension of him,
Yeah.
and when he said that, that just for you saying that then just kind of encapsulated him saying that just encapsulated exactly what he used us for. I mean, other than the control, but we were also used because he wanted to show what a great dad he was. Silly
Yeah.
thing is, he was a terrible father because we were like that out of fear, not because we loved him or because we wanted to make him proud. We were absolutely terrified of him, and that's why we were like that. It wasn't because he was a good dad at all.
Which
Yeah,
then kind of leads on to fear of failure because as
yeah,
children we were terrified of
yeah,
failing, which I know for myself has impacted me in my adulthood.
yeah,
You are scared. I mean, you're nearly scared to try something because if I fail, I'm the worst thing in sliced bread. Um,
yeah,
it took me a long time to get over that, and it's a long time to realize. And I think probably more after my therapy training and running my therapy business, I started to understand that actually failure is great and failure is good. And the faster and
You
quicker
learn
you can
something.
fail, the
Yeah,
faster and quicker you learn from your mistakes.
yeah,
Because I would use the analogy with my clients of, have you ever seen a newborn baby walk?
no,
How long does it take the newborn baby to walk?
years.
When the baby walks, does it get on its feet the first time and go, got this sorted? Yeah, I'm not going to
No,
fail. And does it get on its feet and walk from one side of the room to the other? And then that was it.
no,
It falls over, it lands on its bum, it lands on its head, it lands on its whatever. These
yeah,
little tottery steps fall down, little tottery steps fall down, gets a bit stronger, little tottery steps fall down. And to me, that's comparative to life in general.
yeah,
We didn't have that. We weren't allowed to fail. Everything had to be perfect the first time.
yeah,
And if it wasn't perfect the first time, there was punishment for that.
Maybe
which
trouble.
is
Yeah,
quite ridiculous when you think about that as a child.
it is. When you said about stuff that you still struggle with and the fear of failure and that you'd broken through that. And I was thinking to myself, I haven't broken through that yet. I have the stuff I won't try and won't do because I'm scared of failing. Do you know what I mean? And I don't think I ever physically say to myself, I'm not doing this because I'm scared of failing. I tell myself I can't do it. I think that's how it manifests itself in me, is
Yeah,
I say to myself, you can't do that. You're not clever enough. You
yeah.
won't be able to do that. You won't be able to finish it. And that's another one. Never finishing what I've started. I can't do it. And I don't know. Maybe that is not, I don't know. But I never finish what I've started. I struggle to finish projects. I really, really do. And maybe it's because once I've done it and I look back, I'll go, that wasn't good enough. And so if I never finish it, I can never say that's not good enough because I can say, well, I'm still working on it.
Or the reason you don't finish them is if you did finish it, you wouldn't be able to rationalize that you can't do it anymore
Ah, because I've just done it.
because you've just
And then
done
that
it.
would apply to the rest of everything.
So
Yeah,
you can't use that
that's true.
excuse.
Yeah, that is
That's,
absolutely true.
that's how our ego and our brain works. So it
Yeah,
could well be that you are self-sabotaging not finishing because not finishing fits your narrative of using that as an excuse for
yeah.
yourself but which again, like you said, I don't ever say it's because I'm fear I'm failing. I have all these other, and that's the way it doesn't come straight on. It comes
No.
sneakily one way or another.
Because there's a little bit of hope when you try and do something different. So at the moment, I'm in the middle of a career change. And because of that, I'm having to learn different things. There's no choice for me. It's not a hobby. It's not, I have to do it. And I have a course I'm going on. I was at that yesterday. And while I was going to it, and while I was in it, and while I was doing what I was doing, the hope that I was feeling that I was able to do what the course was teaching me. And I had this hope and I had this positivity. And I wonder if you're correct it's almost like at some point or you feel at some point that's going to be dashed.
Hmm.
Do you know what I mean? And
Hmm.
I do say that to myself, well, you felt this before and it's all come crashing down because you couldn't finish it, you couldn't do it right, you couldn't. So you're almost holding yourself back. I think a lot of times in our childhood and growing up, and to do with dad particularly, I've hoped things would be different. I've hoped that, oh, actually, this might be getting better, or this might, and then that gets dashed. So you kind of get used to those feelings,
Yeah,
you get used to the kind of hoping it's going to be different this time,
yeah,
and then. And it's your self-worth as well, isn't it? So if,
yeah.
what you were saying before about the failure feeling, the feeling like a failure. And you had put this in our Facebook group yesterday, I think, about the
Yes.
affirmations. I've only started affirmations this week.
Okay.
Um, Committed myself to do them. I've thought about them in the past or tried to do them in the past. I struggle with them because I have a very negative self-talk.
Yes.
It's dad's voice. It's my voice, but it's dad's voice.
Yes, of
Tell
course.
me. If I drop a spoon on the floor, I'm like, oh, you stupid cow. I did something the other day and something went really wrong, and I would never speak to another person the way I spoke to myself. I swore at myself. I was like, you absolute stupid, idiotic, moronic cow. Why can't you do anything right? And this is what I was saying to myself. And I didn't
Hmm.
stop it. I just, and that's what was, and if you're constantly saying that, it's like someone constantly in your ear.
Yeah.
So I started the affirmations this week. I've been doing them since Monday.
Good for
And
you.
one of them is, you are enough. And to me, that covers everything
Yeah,
because the whole self-failure and all of that is because the love we were given as children was conditional. You weren't
absolutely.
loved for what you were, you weren't loved for who you are. You were only loved when you did what you were told and you did things his way. And so when you fail now or well don't manage to do stuff or whatever, that all comes flooding back that you're a bad person, that you're not a worthy person, that you're not enough, that you'll
Yeah.
never be good enough, and you're telling yourself all these things all the time, and that has a massive impact on you as a grown up with all your relationships because I feel like I'm constantly in fear of being found out, you know, and I have said that to people before. Oh, you don't really know me. You think you know me. You think I'm a nice person, but you don't really know me. You don't know. And then I sit and question myself and I think, well, actually, what are you a bad person? But I just have this overall sense that I am. Do you know what I mean?
Evil to the core, you're
Yeah,
evil to the core.
the effect it has on, you know, from your childhood as growing up, and it has massive, massive effect, permeates every part of what you do and your relationships and how you feel about yourself for sure.
It does.
Absolutely. You know,
It
I mean,
does.
we've touched on three there, but I'm sure there's so many different ways, you know.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely, for sure. As a closing thing, I would encourage listeners to reflect either on their childhood or their current relationships and identify any patterns of manipulation. We want our listeners always to remember that they're not alone and that you're also stronger than you realize.
Yeah.
It may be that you feel that you're not at this moment in time, but trust yourself that you are. We're going to say bye for now. Thanks for joining us, and I hope you'll join us in our next session. Like and subscribe to the video if you've enjoyed, and we'll say goodbye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.